What I need. And we're live. Good morning. Good morning. I'm going to call this special called meeting of B County Commissioners Court to order. Today is Thursday, April 27, 2023. The time is 9:05 a.m. We are physically located at the B County Courthouse, Commissioners Courtroom, number 110, 105 West Corpus Christi Street, Beeville, Texas 78102. That was the call to order. Moving on, discuss and consider action on the following items. Agenda item number 2, Rural Economic Assistant League, Real, Inc., B County Facility Review. We have Mr. Ornella. I always have a hard time with your last name. My apologies.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Martin Ornelas. I'm the Director of Transportation with Real Incorporated. We're pleased to be able to bring to you the report that's a review of the current facility that's on county property. We've been benefiting from the process through a team of consultants that TxDOT has sponsored called KFH. And they're here to present the report to you. With us is Bennett Powell, who'll be doing the presentation. I understand on the phone we do have TxDOT representatives that would also be available should any questions take place. It's a workshop, so we hope that it's interactive and the options presented are for your consideration. So I thank you again for your time and your attention, and I look forward to the discussion later on this morning.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Powell, you have the floor.
All right, thank you, Commissioners.
On the phone?
Oh, yeah. If you're on the telephone on our conference call, would you please identify yourself for our record?
I'll start. Hello, good morning. My name is Donna Roberts. I am the Program Services Section Director at the TxDOT Public Transportation Division. Good morning.
Good morning. And we had the volume turned down a second ago. I caught Miss Roberts, but I didn't catch anybody else, and I think there's at least one other participant on phone.
Hi, this is Linda.
Oh, go ahead, Linda. Good morning,
Hi.
this is from the Park District, TxDOT.
What was your name, ma'am?
Irma Flores.
Thank you. And then was there a third individual?
Yes. Linda Hernandez. I'm the Program Manager Lead with TxDOT PCN.
Welcome, ladies.
This
Thank
is
you.
also Paula Fuentes out of the Corpus Christi District.
Ms. Fuentes, what was your first name?
Paula
Paula.
Fuentes.
And I think I'm the last one on from TxDOT. My name is Nancy Hohen, and I'm a public transportation coordinator with TxDOT as well.
Welcome, Donna, Irma, Linda, Paula, and Nancy. Mr. Powell, you may proceed.
All right, thank you, Commissioners, Judge, for having us today to talk about the transit facility here in B County. Really appreciate you taking the time to have a special session so we can talk about this, and we will keep this presentation brief so we can get to the discussion. I know you guys are all busy, so we want to do things. Just a quick overview of what we're going to talk about. I think we've done introductions now, so we don't have to go too much into that. We'll do a little bit of background on the issue, talk about some of the issues that exist with the current facility and the transfer of a facility and the potential for a new facility, looking at the regulatory context, which is really interesting. This is what I've been focusing on, and then have a quick discussion. As Martine said, we're a consultant working with the Texas Department of Transportation on a rural transit technical assistance project throughout the state. So this is one of them. Martine, I think along with Judge Morel, contacted TxDOT and asked for some assistance on this particular issue, and they had us come in and do some initial work looking at things, and the kind of second phase of the project realized that this is a really unique context and one that was kind of difficult to understand, particularly from a regulatory standpoint. And so we began to really dig into the federal transit regulations and the Texas charter regulations on how these type of things would go. The background of this is in 1992, the CAP agency that was running the transportation program got a grant, a federal grant, about 80% federal grant, 20% state grant, to build the facility here in Beeville. Likely due to the fact that the transit agency at the time that was running that was a county program, nobody thought to get a long-term lease for the land, which is really standard procedure for these type of things. And so we ended up with this really interesting context where TxDOT held the title to the facility that on property that's owned by the county. It was very unique. It's almost, not to say that it's never happened before, something like this, but it's not something I've seen before. I've been doing this almost 20 years. So it's interesting. In 2014, the B County terminated its transit program through the CAP agency, and Real stepped in to provide basic transit service to the community. Since then, the level of service has gone up. There's more trips being provided to more people safely and effectively. And B County remains one of Real's most productive counties in their entire system. Which, how many counties do you operate in?
9 counties.
9 counties. So there's one or two others that they have kind of higher productivity in, but especially in the northern end of their service area, this is far and away they provide the most service here. And then in 2020, the commissioners and the commissioner courts expressed a desire to transfer the use of that building to what we consider a non-transit use. And so that put in process everything, and that's why TxDOT had us take a look at the situation and try to see what we could find out and what would be a good path forward. So the overarching issue, again, this is a unique context. Almost nowhere in the transit business does one entity own the property, another entity own the land, and there's no lease in place for the land. Generally, that's how it would be set up, or you would sell the property along with the land. So there's really no specific regulations and regulatory context or guidelines that are geared for this context, because nobody kind of foresaw something like this happen. Real is still using the facility for its intended purposes. It has operational, administrative functions in the building. It also is a maintenance facility, which is really helpful because that keeps them from having to deadhead vehicles from Alice to get them serviced, going back and forth. It really is a major cost saver when it comes to kind of preventative maintenance and things like that. And then one of the key issues that we found in kind of all of the regulations, both in the Texas State Code and in the FTA regulations, is the idea of, in order to transfer, because of the grant fundings that were used to build the thing, to build the facility, in order to transfer it from a public transit use to a non-public transit use, it has to be classified as a surplus facility, a surplus asset. Basically meaning that it's no longer needed for its intended purpose. From the public transit standpoint, from Real's standpoint, basically the only way for it to be a surplus facility is if there is another facility for them to use, whether that be the construction of a new facility or retrofitting of an existing facility, something of that. So that's really what the crux comes around to. What really has to happen before the use can transfer, particularly before the end of the useful life of the building, is that Real needs another facility in Beeville or B County somewhere in order to make this transfer work from the regulatory standpoint. I think moving forward, you want the facility, because it's in its prime location and its functionality for the roads department, I believe, is that correct?
That is correct. It's
Yeah, so
immediately adjacent to it.
yeah, immediately adjacent. So it works perfectly for this context you have, which makes sense. Real, I think, moving into the future, would like some more certainty. So they would either like to, own both the property and the facility, or at least have a long-term lease. It's something where they feel they have autonomy to conduct their business the way they need to be conducted. I think TxDOT and the state regulatory funding agencies, as well as FTA, I think would like to see more county support for Real in this endeavor moving forward.
Did you say that again? I didn't catch that.
The TxDOT and the FTA and the regulatory agencies, the funding agencies, would like to see more county support for Real in their effort to have a facility here in the county. Not saying that obviously the county is supportive of Real services, but I think when I say support, I think we're talking about money, helping them secure, whether it's money or in-kind match or something, helping them secure a place to conduct their business in the county. And then one of the important things too is that there's a lot of people, residents in D County, that really rely on Real services. A lot of senior citizens that are taken to congregate meal centers to play bingo. It's they're not independently mobile. It's how they get out and about. There's a lot of people that go to dialysis treatments in the county. So after dialysis, a lot of times they don't, even if they are independently mobile, sometimes the doctors don't want you driving home after that pretty intensive treatment. So Real is providing a really important service to a lot of people, most of the people that need it most here in Real. So it's important to note. So kind of brass tacks, what are we getting down to? The surplus asset is the crux of it all. In order for before the end of the useful life of the project, the facility, for it to transfer to the county, it has to be classified as a surplus asset. The only way that it's a surplus asset is if they have another facility to use. I know I'm beating that dead horse, but that's really the crux of it. The state of Texas, through the Texas State Code, is entitled to 20% of the proceeds. That was what they put up for it. So they're entitled to 20% of the proceeds of the sale or the appraisal value of the building. This is, again, before the end of the useful life of the building. And the FTA is entitled to a percentage or a number that really would be determined directly with you all working with the FTA administrator for this region. And from our understanding is they would use some sort of straight line depreciation of the asset to determine that number. Our calculations think that that's going to be somewhere around $23,000 approximately. But again, that's an approximation. To get an exact number and know exactly what we would have to do, you'd have to work with the FTA administrator moving forward in this process. So in order to get this done before, I guess it would be 2032 when the useful life of the facility, the asset is over, you'll need to have the facility appraised, probably the facility and the land, but you need to have them line items separated because you already own the land. So you don't need to have that. You'll need to contact the FTA and continue to work with TxDOT to figure out exactly how they want to calculate the depreciation. As I said, the Texas Administrative Code would allow TxDOT kind of 20% of the appraised value of the building.
What year did you say?
2032, I believe, so it's a 40-year.
Yeah, the 40-year life, and it was built in 92, so
92.
2032.
2032, yeah.
So it's getting close.
It's getting close. And I think in order to get a new facility for Real, you're probably going to eat up a little bit of that time too. Those things don't happen overnight as well. So we're looking at anywhere from, I would say kind of back of the napkin calculations, a 3-year to 10-year resolution for this.
Question, we keep talking about new facilities, is that something that FTA and the state of Texas would pay for?
They would help pay for, certainly. So the FTA, they're competitive grant processes, but basically the way that it normally works is that the FTA, the federal government, for capital projects would supply 80% of the funding for that. And then the other 20% would either have to come from a combination of local, state funding, and usually TxDOT has a pot of funding available, another competitive grant to help out with that. But I think one of the things, again, in-kind match or some sort of assistance, local match for that grant for Real, I think would go a long way in terms of expediting the process and certainly showing TxDOT that.
Even a long-term lease on the property, which we didn't do this first time.
Right.
Would be a good in-kind match.
Absolutely, that would be something that would be really good. The main thing.
I think if I may, Commissioner, in the current situation, we have not benefited from the land that the facility is on. We get absolutely no in-kind benefit for the land that it's currently on. So there's no.
Other than the use.
Other than the use, correct.
What other, and I'm just curious, what other benefit would there be
The appraised
besides?
value of the land that the building was on could have been applied as an in-kind match that we could apply to other federal grants. We have not benefited from that at all.
I don't understand that.
So like, in order for them to pull down, they get, let's say, federal assistance for operating
Uh-huh.
because they're a rural transit agency. In order to pull down that money, they have to match all of those funds to be able to pull down their full allotment. So if, let's say, you gave them a 99-year lease, the appraised value, now that that's on the books, if you said you gave them for $1, now that the value of that land is on the books, they could use that as in-kind match, that dollar amount, to say, pull down money for operating grants or capital grants, things like that.
Okay,
So
so
it
in
would-
that
it-
component, you
it
haven't
just-
received any value. I do take a little bit of issue. I think Real's received great value from the use of the premises for the facility
Absolutely.
for
Without
Lee
any
County
doubt.
residents. So
Absolutely.
that's why I was a little confused.
On the books.
On the income,
Right.
has Real ever come to us and asked for a lease? I just don't know, I'm kind of new to the county. Have they rejected
We
a
were
lease?
not aware that
Not
we needed a lease,
something.
no.
Okay, all right.
There's never been a lease discussion.
Yeah, I think it
whatsoever.
was just,
Okay.
it was something that never even occurred to anyone until this process started, because it was never in question.
Okay.
Nobody had really any reason to think about it up until that moment.
Well,
But it-
again, I'm not trying to argue.
Yeah,
But obviously, there's a reason to think about it, because Martine, you just were very strong about you've received no benefit from this land. So it's something you've known about. You had no problem identifying exactly what the issue was that Martine just specified that we had no idea about with respect to using the value of a lease in drawing down federal funds. So
yeah. And
I don't
think
really agree with the conclusions that y'all are saying based on what y'all are just told us.
Yeah,
5
yeah,
minutes ago.
I think what, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think what he was saying was kind of in the regulatory, on the books, there was no record of any sort of transaction or value being there. It wasn't that they're not getting value out of that facility and having the place there to operate their business out of. It was more from the regulatory bookkeeping standpoint than the operational or having that space.
Mhm.
I think that's.
Right, and then with respect to the comment about nobody could have anticipated it, I mean, we couldn't because we don't know how you get your federal funds, but obviously you're in the best position to know that. So the idea that somehow we would have to come up with, the county would come up with a lease as benefiting Real is the exact, which is what he said, which is the exact opposite of what really would have been beneficial, 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Real comes to the county and says, hey, we need a lease and this is why.
Yeah.
So please proceed.
Yeah. And then in the report, we kind of outline 4 different scenarios that with the FTA of how the transfer could happen. It's very esoteric and technical. Again, it's something that would be worked out with an FTA representative. You could either reimburse FTA, you could offset the cost to build another facility, you could sell the building. I don't see how that would really work in the context of what you can't really sell. I guess sell to the building. Some of it, doesn't really apply, or you can transfer the funds to something that is similar in use or like in use. Again, it's very technical. Really what's going to happen is, in order to get it done, you work with an FDA administrator to figure out how to really finalize it. We don't need to go into the nitty-gritty details of exactly how it might be done or the things that can't be done. The important thing is that you have to have some sort of appraisal done. FTA will use what sounds like what FTA would do is use some sort of straight line depreciation to get their money out of it, and then TxDOT would get 20% of whatever that appraisal.
Like a normal commercial sale?
Yeah, basically.
And in the real world, I mean, the everyday world, it doesn't sound like anything that's not done out of the ordinary.
No, and so that would be, again, the only thing that's out of the ordinary is that the thing that's appraised or sold would only be the
improvement.
asset. It would not be the land, which is unusual.
Since we already own it, we
already own
don't
it.
buy our own land.
Yeah, you don't have to buy it.
The only thing of value that y'all could get your hands on is the improvements on it, period.
The improvements, right?
Not the dirt.
Not the dirt. Yep. So it would just be the facility without the land. So that is it. So we can kind of open it up for discussion. I mean, I think the crux is Real needs a facility. It needs something that's located in or near Beeville in a safe location, not in a floodplain. So a place where they can store vehicles safely and do some baseline administrative operations. And
I'm just going to stop you. This is a public meeting, and suggesting that we would place an entity that is partner with B County that we feel very strongly for in a floodplain is something that I take issue with.
I'm sorry for that.
Guys, B County is not looking to dispossess or to make Real's business and its processes in B County any more difficult. We feel very strongly in support of Real. We have a logistical goal and idea, but we are working with Real, not against them. So please, again, the things that you guys say are being recorded, so when I feel that they need to be corrected, I'm going to. I'm not, I don't want to derail the discussion, but again, we're not looking to place Real in a flood zone or in the bottom of the lake or in a very convenient spot in Goliad County. So now let's get back to what we're doing, and let's keep this positive.
And Judge, I absolutely understand, and I think the presentation made by KFH is about the contents of the report.
Mm-hmm.
I think Real has been very clear from the inception. There's a long-term partnership. We've benefited in service to the community. That is not in question. Any implication that may give you a different impression, let me apologize for that. That is certainly not the intent. We are very clear. We believe that Real has provided a quality service. The discussion truly did stem from service expansion and the continued need for additional services in the community. Anything other than that is really, I agree with you, inappropriate in this context, and I concur with you. I think we should focus on the next steps for us to continue with the strong partnership and service to community. So again, let me apologize if there's anything that is out of context and out of place, but the focus truly is on what are the next steps and how do we continue moving forward in a proactive, positive way.
Okay, thank you. Well, let's proceed. Go
May I
ahead.
ask a question?
Yeah.
Would Real benefit, and I want to, go on the record that Real has done a great job in B County. And I agree with you totally. I've been on the court long enough. I saw the previous service. I see your service. Your service is far superior.
Thank you.
My question is, would you benefit from a brand new facility designed exactly for what Real needs?
I think so, yeah. I mean, that, you know, I won't answer for Martin, but I think that's exactly.
Absolutely, and without any doubt. I believe we are at the service needs in B County are such that our original framework for a study was not on the facility, but on how do we better expand service to respond to emerging need. That in turn called for our ability to begin retrofitting the existing facility, which created a series of questions,
Yes.
and hence this is where we are. And so if a new facility was an option, we would absolutely partner and find ways where possible to make that come into fruition. It certainly is much better when it's conceptually designed for an intended purpose than to retrofit into an existing facility without any doubt.
The rest of the
grant money
question,
available?
the rest of the question, would you need more land footprint than you have now?
I don't believe that more land footprint would be needed.
Okay.
But I would certainly frame that in the context of engineers to make an appropriate study for the flow of vehicles. We don't envision large vehicles moving through there. So I think that type of footprint preliminarily does appear to be an appropriate footprint.
So something that would work for y'all and might work for B County is that your existing facility is there, it's depreciated out, we've paid whatever fee it is, and we provide land somewhere nearby possibly,
Mhm.
and you build a brand new facility that's built exactly for your needs, designed for what you need. You take that and we take this and everybody's happy.
I think the question would be the how to construct the new facility. It really would be the biggest challenge. In that the funding streams through TxDOT are competitive. It's not an automatic given that the funds will be there, and I think that's where we would engage again with the county in a discussion how best to accomplish the intended goal. But
Well,
that certainly would work.
With all the federal money that's come into the state of Texas, I know they have infrastructure money, one thing or another. There may be some avenues that you haven't explored yet that are available.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And then we're just talking about the 20%. As far as the 80% goes, the FTA, is that a pretty confident, like 80 to 90%?
Yeah, so that
Yeah,
if
those
you
funds are
win the
available.
grant award, it will be most likely, I mean, you know,
And-
different things happen, but most likely it would be at 80%.
And we don't know all the particulars of all these new possible funding streams, absolutely. In the current framework, there tends to be, we've seen, what's called transportation development credits, which would be adequate for match. A 20% match of land wouldn't necessarily be the strongest. It'd be more appropriate at some point possibly in actual cash match that could support an actual construction of a facility. Matching federal dollars right now, it's quite beneficial through the benefit of TDCs. So I think it's really exploring all the financial options with their leadership, of course, and looking at what those streams are. I think the environment may be prime for something like that to truly happen.
Has Real built a new facility in the last 10 years, 5-10 years, or?
It typically takes anywhere between 6 and 10 years to build a facility. We're in year 8 of our current construction of our new facility out of our headquarters in Alice. And God willing, we break ground in August of this year. It's a much larger facility in our central hub. It's approximately $12.5 million, and that's taken us this long.
Wow, and that's great. The reason I asked is, and I'm just, I didn't mean to interrupt
No.
you, Commissioner DeWitt.
You're good.
And I know you have a question pending too, so I'm kind of stepping on your toes too. Apologies to everybody. with respect to when Commissioner DeWitt was talking about space and whatnot, has Real looked at any other, projects or anything by any other rural transit agencies, or is there something that your firm has just as far as like a thumbnail print? Because what we're talking of, and I know it's very early days, but even with respect to the funding, it gets very complicated very quick, and that just means nothing happens, right? Because when it gets complicated, it just grinds to a halt. But we have tracts of land. We have tracts of land in the vicinity. We have tracts of land that are not in the vicinity. There's also open land. There's all sorts of different options. But until we get to the point of the scope of what Real would build, then we're just guessing on what might apply as far as the next step goes. So I guess that would be my question.
So we did in our report, I think you all have it. We did a very baseline calculation of kind of what their facility might look like, and using a kind of cross-referencing sheet that TxDOT has developed to help agencies cost out and look at potential costs. We've determined that approximately somewhere around $1.3 million.
I was thinking space, like
Space.
the fizzle,
So that
we need
I
a
think that
10,000 square foot building.
I don't know if we put the exact square foot in there, but
How big is
no.
it in Dallas?
Half an acre, 2 acres. I'm literally thinking like
I
dumbing
believe
down for
a
utility
2-acre
blocks.
tract is probably more than adequate.
Yeah.
Two.
A 2-acre tract,
Yeah.
correct. I think also be aware that Beeville County plays a critical role in regional transportation for its residents in connection to other services in the area. We are very clear that it would be a modest, our vision is to be modest, but yet to build on the need and on the potential for future services that the area could play. And so we would certainly keep that in mind.
The one in Jim Wells County, are y'all leasing it for 50 years, or is it y'all own it outright?
That one, Real purchased that straight outright.
So yeah, we're looking, again, this is just kind of a basic analysis, but about a 11,000 square foot facility. The main thing for the size of land and the footprint of land would be ingress and egress of transit vehicles into that property. So 2 acres would be would be more than adequate, but you couldn't do like a shotgun lot, where you gotta have at least a place for vehicles to kind of circle in and out, off of a road. But yeah, 11 to 12,000 square foot facility. And I don't know exactly what the smallest footprint of land would be to accommodate that, but certainly I think 2 acres would be more than adequate.
Martine, let me ask you a question. I know you go to this facility quite often. Are you familiar with where our former sheriff's office and jail was?
Yes, sir.
Is that area large enough if that building were removed? You've got a huge parking lot, you've got everything else you need.
Absolutely.
Something there where y'all come in, do all the site preparation, tear the building down, take it out, put your facility in. I'm just talking, commissioners, and it's a possibility. It would help us. It would get rid of that building, and that footprint would be there. There's a huge parking area there already, lighting, electricity, everything's there.
Correct.
And right now, we have no use for that facility. It's sitting there and needs to be torn down. And that's something, if you can put in your site preparation, when you're doing that, it might be something that the court might, I'm just thinking as one person, something to look at. Because it would help us,
Correct.
because then it would be gone.
Correct. I think we're, without any hesitation, open to looking at all facilities, any possibilities of land. I think that if it's either a complete demolition or partial demolition, to look at ways to reduce costs. We are absolutely very much conscious of that and would be very open to looking at all options.
You might, when you finish here, y'all might want to go and drive through and look at that.
Yeah.
At least see what I'm talking about.
Sure.
Yeah,
When
there's a lot of existing asphalt. I mean, there's already an existing.
Yes.
It's a public roadway, right?
It's a public, it's the same road you went
Which is
on
the
now.
opposite, across the street.
It's right across, and it's not in a flood zone.
Yeah.
But it's right there, it's right behind Halo Flight, and it would help us,
Okay.
Yeah.
because it would get rid of that facility.
And Commissioner, without knowing, I've gone there numerous times. I go frequent to the facility, and thought crossed my mind, I wonder what they're going to do with that. The things we could do. So the possibilities are there.
Well,
and again, we can adapt.
and it could be, now, this is just another thought, it could be y'all could take that existing facility, demolish part of it.
Right.
There's a sally port, there's storage, there's everything else there, and spend $1 million instead of $5 million and retrofit it to your use.
Correct.
Absolutely, and we talk about that in the report a little bit too, that, you know, constructing a new facility is a good idea, but if there's other facilities that can be retrofitted.
This is concrete, this is
Yeah,
concrete.
it's great. And I just want to be clear about the floodplain comment.
We're kind of
Only because it was recorded.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I understand.
We're kind of
and
sensitive about that.
I get that, and that.
I was a floodplain administrator here, so.
I'm more like reading through the regulations of like what, you know, you know, they have a little bullet points of, okay, if you're gonna, you know, swap facilities, it has to be a like facility, it can't be this, that, and the other, and so that's why I said it, but knowing that we're on the record, yeah.
If I think, in the context and the spirit of the discussion, I think what would be real important is that in the ideal world, we would not be interested in a lease. In an ideal world, we would like to be self-sufficient, we would like to see a full transfer of the space and the land onto Real to certainly avoid this in the future. And another kind of lease. So just be aware that our position is that we would like to be autonomous in that particular way and continue with the benefit of the partnership with the county.
See, the only, I'm just talking, the only thing I have there, let's say in 5 years of this time that you bought this property, it all goes away. And Real ceases to exist, and that program ceases to exist. Now we have a piece of property right in the middle of all county assets that could be sold for a Burger King or whatever, and that would be my concern.
Absolutely, and if I'm not mistaken, the entire parcel of land as was donated to the county, there were certain considerations that always be in public use to
Well,
some degree or another.
Not so much that, I've read the deeds, that entire block, the hospital,
Correct.
the new SO, that all is county property, every piece of it.
Right.
And we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that could not be put in writing to give us a surety. Just be aware that without that security,
Right.
our ability to build and to invest is limited.
It could be, and I interrupt you, it could be something, a codicil was put in there that it should cease to exist, it reverts back to B County.
And I think that's where we would refer to TxDOT and their guidance, and that would be acceptable to them for us to continue investing. And for the record, Real has been we're celebrating this year our 50th year, and we envision celebrating our 50th year in 50 years.
50.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it, good job.
Any other?
Bruce, did you have some questions?
No, there you go.
Okay. Commissioner Overdose?
No, this time.
Just that property does have ingress all the way to 59 and
It does.
Absolutely.
egress to
Absolutely.
Hillside Drive.
That provides the access, ingress, and egress as needed and would be appropriate. I think just the asphalt on the parking is amazing. We'll drive around right now and look and see if that's
Please.
something worth discussing, and then we'll follow up as appropriate with the court through your leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, any other questions?
No, sir, and just deal directly with our county judge, if you will.
Is there anything else, Martine, that we need to discuss? It seems like we almost cut this short. I figured we were going to be here for a couple hours talking about substantive matters.
Keep it short, get to the point, and I get to rolling our sleeves to work. I would certainly defer. Donna, is there anything from the TxDOT perspective that we would also need to keep in mind?
Yes, thank you, Martine. This is Donna Roberts, for the record, with the Texas Department of Transportation. So, listening to all of this, there's just one important factor to keep in mind with regard to the grant funding that might go to the development of a new facility. Martine mentioned that getting those grant funds are competitive, and while I can't speak for the federal government, but I know about our own competitive process to get access to federal dollars. To keep in mind the context of this situation is that federal funds were already used to build a facility that is currently used for transit and is still being used for its intended purpose for transit. And now we're saying, or the county is saying, or Real is saying, we need a different facility, even though the current facility is the right size and footprint for their needs. Now you're asking the federal government to give you funds for another facility in that same area, even though the current facility suits your needs. So in a competitive process, that's a difficult application to be successful in if there is not a significant investment, a local investment by the county.
And ma'am, that's where we would come in with this extremely valuable parcel of land.
And I think if we
I
can,
understand. I'm just saying to be competitive, it might need to be more than land. I'm not saying for sure. I just, with a history of understanding what other facilities also come to the table, with other agencies come to the table asking for money, and there's usually more requests than there are funds. It's a harder sell to say, well, we have a facility that is perfect for our needs now, but we want a different one that's going to cost a heck of a lot more money than just continuing to use the current facility.
Ms.
I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying to make your application more competitive, there may need to be a stronger contribution, local contribution.
And Ms. Roberts, I think you just answered my question, or Martine, you can jump into. As far as like chicken and egg process or cart and horse, would, if an alternative location is identified, then I presume the next step would be coming up with some initial drawings for cost estimates. Yeah, I guess maybe full drawings and engineering, full drawings and design, and then the next step would be seeking federal funds. And if there's success in obtaining federal funds, then after that step, then we'd be coming to TxDOT for additional support. Or is TxDOT a part of the process all the way through? Can you just kind of explain to me the metrics of how that all
TxDOT
works?
is a part of the TxDOT is a part of the process all the way through, although the discussion previously talked about the federal funds being 80% and the TxDOT funds being 20%. Frankly, the federal dollars pass through TxDOT. So there may be other sources of funds that Real could apply for directly to FTA, but there is a competitive process that TxDOT has a call for projects every other year, that we control some of the federal dollars that go to the rural portions of the state for public transit. But generally, those federal dollars flow through TxDOT. So we are involved all along the way. In the previous facility, TxDOT may have contributed some state dollars, but the federal dollars that go to much of the facilities that are built, those federal dollars flow through TxDOT. So hopefully that's some clarification there. That's not to say that there may be some other federal fund sources that could be applied for. that just has to be researched that Real could apply for directly. But the other issue here is that the tricky part is actually deeming the current facility as surplus. That's a difficult order to do when it's being used for its intended purpose and is still needed for its intended purpose. It's difficult to say that it's surplus. But if there is another capital improvement project in the works that is justified with local contributions, it makes that process easier.
Not even if it's reaching its 40-year life?
Yeah, 10 years left. I believe it still has 10 years left. That's
9 years.
still a long time. And again, I'm not saying any of this is impossible to work through. It's just it's harder in a competitive process to be competitive. But it's not impossible. But I just wanted to put some parameters around that, and to make it clear that the federal dollars flow through TxDOT for the most part. There are other federal funds that Real may be able to apply for directly that may not flow through us, but that has to be researched, or even the county. And of course, a contribution of land definitely goes a long way, but that is the typical course of action, that the transit agencies don't buy the land, but with construction dollars being it's so expensive for construction right now. It's still a question to answer, paying $5 million or $1 million for a new facility when it seems like the current facility suits the purpose. We just have to work through that.
I think if I may add, and to ensure that we all understand the same information, there are many of the current federal funding streams that we do not qualify as a direct recipient. We're a subrecipient to TxDOT. TxDOT is the designated recipient that would receive the funds on our behalf, including submission of an application for certain federal funding streams. I think the other important variable to take into account is the initial discussions that stem from the need to expand service to better meet the needs. And so we are at a point where the current facility meets current needs, but we are at the point of expansion of services to enhance the services. I think that positions us in a unique situation where we must either retrofit the existing facility to better respond to need, or seek an alternative location for us to better respond to emerging needs that have been identified. And so we will look at, and I hope that one of the outcomes of this process is to look at funding possibilities to continue discussion with this court on how best to accomplish that. I know that there's some possibilities, and I think that if we begin focusing on the funding aspect and how to get to the goal collectively, I think, and together, and in that transparency spirit, I think it'd be very beneficial for us all.
You hit the nail on the head, Martine. Thank you. If you're to be competitive, you do have to, as Martine knows, justify the need. So if you're looking at growth in the county, that would go a long way in an application to be supported for a need other than what you already have.
And I think it's important to remember that the impetus, especially for our involvement in this, was to really, we started it with the charge of looking at how to expand and increase services in B County. That's what initially brought us here. So I think that there are some strategies that, I mean, here's my contact info. Obviously, whenever we work with an agency, we're always available to talk to anyone on the phone. Same with the commission report here, if any of you want to discuss things. I think that there are some great strategies that can be employed, especially looking to the future of making a good case for grant funding for a new facility here. Understanding that they still have an existing facility. I think there's some strategies that can be worked out specifically looking to the future, as Martin said, that we can make a good case for competitive.
You know, I want to appreciate what y'all have done in TxDOT. Martine and I have had started this discussion several years ago, and to bring it to this point and realizing how the service is going to expand is exciting for us, and I think we want to be a part of it. And personally, as a commissioner, I'm here to support what you guys want to do, and we're here to help any way we can. I know that I see a way where this is going to benefit y'all and us tremendously. So thank you for being here, and thank TxDOT for taking the time to put this on and give us this information.
Is it possible to get a copy of your presentation?
Sure, absolutely.
Great. Judge, how would you like?
Hey, just email it to, actually just email it to Dolores. Oh, you have it already? No, this presentation, the PowerPoint?
Oh, no,
Yeah.
here.
I
Yeah.
have it on a flash drive too.
Sure, you can just give it to Dolores and she can distribute it to the board members. Martine, the area that y'all are gonna look at, my rough estimates is the concrete portion of it, excluding the back roadway, and the drive is about 1.9 acres, so maybe it might be 2 acres, with more accurate measurements. In the existing facility, the jail, the footprint there is about 28,000 square feet, just for scale, when y'all are looking at the area. Is there anything else that?
I thank y'all for being here.
Absolutely, Commissioners, Judge, thank you for your time. Just know that innovation happens when situations present themselves. Know that there's multiple ways for us to look at a transit facility that has multi-use, meaning more than intended use, that could be used in spaces that may be available. And so we don't lack any ability to look at different options and how we can make things work. But with your continued leadership, I am confident that we can make something work out that would continue being of benefit to the riding public, to the commissioners in this court, and to Real and to TxDOT as we continue this path of service to community. So thank you for your time this morning, and KFH, I appreciate your leadership and your guidance in the regulatory framework.
Yeah, let me echo what Commissioner DeWitt said, and again, thank you guys, and thank you, Martine, for engaging with the county in this discussion. It's never been a situation where the county is looking to dispossess Real and move Real out of the county at all. We again really enjoy and appreciate the level of support and resources that Real provides for our community. And so I do appreciate y'all continuing to work with us as we look to try to find a way that might improve your situation here in B County and make it better. Not a in-kind or a like-for-like transition. I'd also like to thank TxDOT. I know y'all have a lot going on, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate. We've got 5 TxDOT representatives on the phone right now, so believe me, B County understands that y'all are taking this seriously, and I want you to hear directly from me that the B County is only looking to try to see if there is an opportunity, because we're happy with how things are at right now, but if there's an opportunity that can benefit Real and can benefit B County and the citizens of B County, it's something that we're very serious about trying to find a workable solution for. And so we know that your guidance, expertise, and authority is going to be important to keep supporting us in our efforts. And so we thank you for being here, for taking this seriously, and for continuing to engage with us and with Real in this process. I guess this is more really, at the end of the day, this is an aspirational discussion about a net positive solution that we might be able to bring to the community. There's, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but if we don't try, we don't know if there's a better solution out there. So thank you guys. Is there anything else that needs to come before the board? Anything else, Martine? No. Mr. Powell, thank you for your presentation this morning. I really appreciate it. And for digging into all the regulatory framework, because it is, like you said, descends pretty quickly into a morass of traps and tricks and what-fors and section numbers. So thank you for summarizing that for us as well. And if there's nothing further, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion, I have a second.
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes without exception. Thank you, gentlemen. We are adjourned. Thank you, Martine.
Thank you, Martine.
Val.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. No, I didn't even address you. I'm so sorry. I say
Pam Garza.
Linda Hernandez
I'm
has left the call in front.
Real Transportation.
Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you
Ms.
for
Garza.
having us.
Paula.
It's good talk.
And I think, I hear what Donna was saying, I didn't want to say anything about things, I think that the case in grant, we provide grant assistance, I think it can be made
Yeah,
glowingly. I'm
it's a
not-
very, very negative summary of what we're really trying to do. So I tend to agree with you.
Yeah.
The extent that this is a net real positive.